Hey guys, it's your host, Bailey Cartwright. Welcome to the Stronger Scars podcast, where I invite others to dive deep into the ups and downs of physical and mental scars. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Stronger Scars podcast. I'm joined today with Morgan Dewey. She currently is a graduate student on East Carolina women's soccer team. I'm excited to just meet her, get to talk to her. Shout out Molly Belial. We'll talk about her later, but that's kind of how I met Morgan. And I'll let you just kind of introduce yourself a little bit.
So my name is Morgan. I'm currently a sixth year on the ECU soccer team. I'm a graduate student. I went to Louisville my freshman year. I transferred in the spring and immediately came to ECU, and I majored in nursing undergrad, and now I'm currently getting my master's in health communication.
Nice. My mom was a nurse, so I love nurses.
Oh, awesome.
Okay, let's just kind of start back. I know I just said to her before we started recording, I'm very interested to hear the whole transferring story, just because I feel like as competitive like high school soccer players, everyone dreams of going to the ACC, and it's like a big deal. It's like, let's be real, it's probably one of the better conferences. And obviously you went, you didn't like it, and you left. So let's just kind of hear what happened.
So it's kind of interesting you say that, because I was on a club team with a bunch of top players in the country. And so everyone was pretty much going to an SEC and ACC Power Five schools. Like, it was a small percentage that wasn't. And so I had it in my head, I have to go play in the ACC. I have to go in the SEC. So as soon as Louisville reached out, I was like, perfect. This has been my dream. Like, it honestly didn't even matter to me if I really liked the school, because I was like so set on it. So I ended up going. The Everyone always asks me why I transferred, like a million people always. And sometimes I'm just like, oh, it just wasn't like right for me, because I really don't want to like get into this whole story. But really the real reason I transferred is, so after my freshman year, or before my freshman year, we had to go early and do all the fitness tests and kind of like get you ready for the beep test, which was, I guess, like a week before preseason. And I mean, they had us running like the Man U mile repeats. Like, it was just crazy. And I had never had a problem with fitness ever. I was like, well, I guess this is just what college soccer's like. Like, this is just insane. Like, this is not what I expected. So I didn't end up passing the beep test the first time. I missed it by like, I think we had to get to 11.7, and I was at like 11.3, 11.4. And the rule was you couldn't play. So I missed the first 7 games of the season and didn't play at all.
7?
Yes, the first 7. I would travel. I don't think I would dress. Me and the other girl who came from Concord, our club, also is in the same exact situation. So us two, we wouldn't play at all. So we would just rerun the beep test like probably every 3 or 4 days, and it just got exhausting. Like, my score was just going down.
Yeah.
It was just like there was no point, and it was just kind of like a constant like, it was like, there's no way I'm getting less fit. Like, this has to just be, I was so in my head. Like, I never had a problem with fitness ever before. So finally, I don't even know what time I actually ended up passing, probably like the 7th or 8th, to be completely honest. And so I finally got to play. I played like, I think around 230-ish minutes as a sub, but like, it wasn't a bad freshman season for, playing in the ACC, being a freshman. So I was content with it. And in the spring, we had to run a 3 mile in 22 minutes and 30 seconds. And if you did not pass, you did not play. So I did not play in one spring game. I did not practice one time. Half the times I didn't even go to practice. So, and me and this other girl from my team every day would go to the weight room and run on the treadmill and run outside. And it got to the point where our strength coach wasn't even running or like doing the workouts with us anymore, because I think they kind of had just like given up at that point. And I had never had a problem with fitness in my life. Like, I had always played left back.
Right.
Like a super, fitness heavy position. Like, I had never had an issue. So I was just shocked that this whole thing was even going on to begin with. And so I think March, it got to a point where I was on the treadmill doing this workout, and our strength coach was like, if you get off, you have to go home. like if you step off the treadmill. And so I got to the point where I was just like, screw this, I'm done. And I got off and she like slammed the treadmill and was like, all right, go home. So I go out and I call my mom and I'm like, that's it. I have to leave. I can't do this anymore. Like, I am just completely done. So that's kind of where, like, I met with the coaches and they basically said, you know, it would probably be in your best interest. This is just the standard of our team and you can't pass it. So sorry. And I was really upset. Like, I had great friends. I had a great friend group. I loved the school. I had like just gotten an email about getting into nursing school early. And so I was happy in all other aspects of being there. And so it was like really, really hard for me to agree to transfer because I was like, this is such a silly reason. Like, I was doing well soccer wise. Like, it wasn't this huge soccer issue that kind of made me leave. So,
Wow.
mhm.
Well, thanks for sharing. That is, I mean, like, I will say you're not the first person I've heard who like has had like some crazy experience with the roles of the fitness test. But like, I'm like the injured mindset of me is thinking in the back of my head, like, did they even care about that being a possibility? Like, that can't be good for you.
No, and it was just like, it was hard because I loved the team. Like, I loved my teammates. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be at practice. Like, there were days where I was filming practice. And it was hard. And they made me meet with the sports psychologist. And that was just something at the time that I had never dealt with. And so it was really hard for me. And looking back, I struggled a lot mentally, but I don't think I really realized it at the time. I think I was very much just like, this is just college sports. This is normal. And looking back, I'm like, that was not okay. Like, that is not how my freshman year should have been. Um, and so I'm so happy that I did end up
Mm.
here. I think everything worked out for a reason, worked out in the end. But looking back, I'm like, I don't even know how I did that. I don't even know how I survived because now there's no way. There's literally no way I can do that.
Well, that's not normal. So if you're listening to this and you're going through something similar, that's not normal. um, well, I'm happy. Like, I do think that it takes a lot of guts to like make that decision for yourself to walk away from like, happiness in one aspect of your life because another aspect of your life was just like not being healthy for you.
Yeah, and so it was hard to tell my friends and my team. Like, I remember I kind of like called a smaller like team meeting in the locker room and I was like very upset and told everyone and I was like, I have to transfer. Like, it wasn't a bad transfer situation at all. And like, I did have a good relationship with the coaches. It just like, that was their really strict standard. And it
Mhm.
just got to a point where I was like, this just isn't healthy for me anymore. So sorry. And I mean, there were other things that went into it. Like, I wanted to start and play and they had
Sure.
a solid back line and I wanted to do nursing school. And so I was like, it just would probably be better for me. Looking back now, it just made a lot more sense.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I guess obviously that is just awful, but what was it like to transfer, like we said, from a big five to a smaller D1 conference, which I mean, it's still a really great D1 conference. I was looking at the schools and I mean, but it's just different. Like, you know what I mean? Like the hype around it is different. So, what was that kind of like?
It was definitely a little different, like, when people would ask me where I went to school, all or where I was committed to, and, my freshman year, everyone knew Louisville and everyone knew, they were in the ACC, so now it's kind of funny, even though it's, like, still close to where I'm from, people are like, "Where? ECU, East Carolina?" But, I ended up reaching back out to my club coaches when I was transferring, and they really helped me just because we didn't have the portal. So when I was transferring, there was no portal at all. So I had to reach out to my club coaches, hope that they knew someone, and then like kind of talk to them that way. So it was definitely harder. I think my life would have been a lot easier with the portal, maybe. But so my club coach at the time, well, in high school, connected me to Jason, who was the coach at ECU and now coaches at Notre Dame, assistant coach. So
He
yeah,
does?
yeah, he's the assistant coach at Notre Dame. He was my coach for 4 years. I came on a visit. I went to visit here in Furman, and it just like made more sense to come here because they had nursing, and I love the school and the atmosphere, and the conference was still like right below the Power Five. like we have 3 schools next year going to play in the Big 12. Um, and so I was like, this is just the perfect place. And so I honestly committed like 3 weeks after because I was transferring in May. I didn't really have that much time because you have to be at school in July. And so my mom was like, Morgan, like, we're kind of running out of time. And I was like, yep, going to ECU. And so it was kind of cool because I came in with 7 other transfers because it was also his first year. So he was kind of trying to like build the program back up. And so he brought me and 6 other people. And it was different, but it was definitely kind of cool having them. And so I didn't really feel like I was just like the one transfer by myself. Um, so I don't know. It was definitely a very interesting experience.
Yeah. No, I mean too, like I'm playing D3 soccer right now. You know what I mean? It's all like it's all perspective. And I think like I cannot stress this enough to like younger people who are starting the recruiting process. Like you literally have to just do what makes sense for you and what makes you happy because the status, like,
Mhm.
okay, great. Like I went to Notre Dame and then I got hurt and didn't play. Like the status literally means nothing if you're not happy. It really doesn't.
I think that is something I always want to tell my younger 2 sisters. And I'm like, do not choose a school. Tell your teammates, don't choose a school just because it's in the Power Five. I think that's one of my biggest regrets coming out of high school was that I was so stuck on going to play in the SEC or the ACC. And I wish that, not that I'm not happy that I ended up here, I'm so grateful, but I wish that I had taken a step back and looked at all these mid-major schools that were interested in me because I think that it would have made my life just a little bit easier in the beginning.
Right. So let's kind of move it along a little bit. Let me see if I remember what I read. You tore your ACL
2019.
sophomore.
So I get here sophomore year. I played the whole fall. I had a pretty good season. And January of my sophomore year, we're just like in practice and I planted really hard and I just like felt it kind of like go forward and hyperextend. And I think I almost like kind of tried to turn and my foot stayed and my knee went. And I was just in shock because I was like, what's going on? This has never happened to me before. I have never been injured. And I had just got myself out of a hard freshman year. So I was like, just upset that the whole thing was even like happening to begin with. Um, but I ended up having surgery in February and I redshirted my junior year because I just wasn't going to be back in time. At the time, I actually tried to like talk to my surgeon, try to get cleared, and he was like, no, there's no point. You don't need to come back early. Way higher risk of re-injury. Just redshirt and play your 5th year, which actually ended up working out really perfectly. Um, well, until I got hurt again. But at the time, it worked out really well because I had an extra semester of nursing school to do because of Louisville. So I was already a semester behind school wise just because of the classes and the way everything lined up. So it ended up just working out really well.
So I want to talk. I've had a decent amount of ACLs on here. And
Mhm.
one question I was like thinking about what I want to talk about with you. One question I don't think I've ever asked anyone is do you think that since an ACL, like unfortunately it is a common injury, especially in female soccer, like let's be real, like someone's tearing their ACL every day.
Mhm.
Do you think that that makes it easier to be just another number? Or like, does it make it harder because it's not a unique injury? It's not something that you stand out from. It's just like, oh, she tore her ACL.
I think it honestly helped me my sophomore year when it happened the first time because I was like, oh, this happens to everyone.
Mhm.
And I was like, this is such a common thing. My friend Molly, she had hurt hers or torn hers 6 months prior. So we kind of went through it together and definitely was way easier when I was younger because I kind of was like, everyone's going through this. I kind of didn't feel by myself. I felt very surrounded by everyone and I had a bunch of friends who played still. And so I think it helped me get through it the first time. Not as much the second time at all, but definitely the first.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like as someone who's hurt on like a big team, I
Mhm.
just felt like a number a lot of times. So I was like, the one thing that sticks me out is my injury is different from other people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's definitely true. I kind of started to feel like people were just like, oh, it's just an ACL injury because
Mhm.
people don't really realize no matter what injury you're going through, it's still so hard to get through. And I think it kind of does downplay it a little bit. Well, people think it gets downplayed a little bit because it's just such a common injury in soccer. Um, so yeah, I would be not interested to have a unique injury, but I would be interested to see what it was like having something that wasn't an ACL, like something a little bit different, and see if I maybe felt a little bit more unique. But I don't know. I think it's just so common that it's kind of hard.
Mhm. I mean, and like it is good that it's common because let's be real, like the trainers, the doctors, they know what they're doing. They've done it before. Like they know what works, what doesn't work.
And I think it almost gets to a point where a girl on our team who is younger, she just tore her ACL, and it's like helpful for her because I know exactly what to do, who to go to. And I've kind of enjoyed like walking through this journey with her because it kind of makes me feel like I'm giving back a little bit. So it's nice in that aspect. Like, what's going on, who to talk to, you can reach out to your friends who have had these ACLs. Like, I'm sure in your case, it's harder to go through something that's so rare because you don't have anyone really to relate to at all.
Right. And I've always been like, not jealous, but like my one friend who went through her ACL while I was going through my stuff, like it was like a group, like the ACL girls. Like it was just like this whole like you can just build around this negativity because you all have it in common. I was always kind of jealous. I was like, dang, like I don't want to be in that group, but like I wish I had that.
Mhm. Yeah, well, so that kind of brings me into my second injury because this time was pretty much all by myself. I was the only one that was injured. And so I felt very lonely this time. I didn't feel like um, I had all these people who could relate to me, I guess, in that sense of having torn their ACL.
Mhm. So what was the second time?
So, okay, so after the first time, I redshirted my junior year. I came back and COVID hit. So I was like so ready to play, and I come back and we get sent home for COVID. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll wait a whole nother year. So I ended up being out for 2 years because we didn't play that fall. So my first season back was like the shortened 10
Yep.
game kind of season in the spring. So it was just like almost like anticlimactic because I was like, I'm so ready for my first game. And then it was like, my first game was like this COVID game that no one could come to. It was just like, I don't know, like I was just like, I think I had dreamed about it for like 2 years. And then I was like, well, here it is.
Yeah.
So, um, so that was that season. And then we played again in the fall. So it was kind of two like back-to-back seasons. And then I was supposed to be done. And then like 1 week before senior night, my other roommate, her name's Carson, she tore her ACL in August of her 5th year. So last fall, a year ago. And so she was planning on staying for her 6th year. And she's one of my best friends here and my roommate. And so she was kind of like trying to convince me this whole time to take my 6th year that we had from COVID.
Mhm.
And I was like, no, like I need to go get a job. Like I don't need to be in college anymore. And then I started to think about it, and the time to apply for a job kept getting closer. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm gonna stay an extra year because like why not? I'll never get to do it again. And so I decided super last minute that I was gonna stay for an extra year. And in April, we were playing like a round robin, 3 45-minute halves against 3 different teams, and played the first one, played the whole second one, played like 10 minutes of the third one, and literally just took a touch in and went to go play the ball with my right foot, and I just felt my whole knee collapse inside. And I was just like, no way this is happening. There's literally no way. And I think anyone who has an injury is always in the back of their mind scared that it's going to happen again. And it was like my worst nightmare. I was like, and it wasn't even like the initial pain of why I was so upset. It was like, I have to go through all this PT, all this rehab, like surgery, like I came back to play soccer. I didn't come back to be hurt. And so it was really hard for me in the like initial hit of emotions. I like cried the whole last 45-minute game, and everyone was like, are you okay? Like, does it hurt? And I'm like, no, it's not even about like being hurt. It's just I know what I'm about to have to go through again. So I got surgery at the end of April, and then I ended up medically retiring. And so I've kind of taken on like a student assistant coaching role, because I'm going to go be a nurse, and it's not like I could go be a nurse. And I wanted to rehab it the right way and not have like chronic knee pain and all that kind of stuff. So
Soak up your resources.
yeah, so I was like, I might as well just stay and do everything I can to get back to where I was before.
Wow, I did not realize before I met you that this was this recent and like you're going through this.
So I'm at 6 months, like last week.
Okay, well, let's talk about this. So the one thing you said to me that like stood out, like hit home for me was you're not coming back for your 6th year to be hurt. Like that concept of like just the mentality of walking into something and like obviously we can't have in the back of our mind that we're going to get hurt, whatever. But after going through injury and like getting to use the injury year to come back and play and then getting hurt, it just like that's something I've been so fearful of. And like my heart goes out to you because that is tough. That's really freaking tough.
Yeah, it's been hard just because a big part of the reason I came back was because for the past 2 years I've been doing nursing school. So when you do nursing school and do soccer, it's hard. You have to miss a lot of practices. You're studying 24/7. And it just like took a big toll on me. And so I was so happy to finally have a season where I was like going to dedicate it just to soccer.
Mhm.
And so that was really hard because I mean, I really had only played 2 full seasons of soccer. I played my freshman year, I guess 3, my freshman year, which wasn't really a full season, my sophomore year, and then my senior year. And then we had the shortened COVID, and then I redshirted 1 year. So I kind of was like, I owe it to myself to give myself another season of like just soccer. And yeah, it was hard because I also was like, and I've heard you say this on other podcasts, like you don't want to be labeled as the injured girl. Like you don't want to leave here. I didn't want to leave here with my legacy of being, oh, she tore her ACL 2 times. Like that's not what I wanted. And so it was kind of hard for me to find my place, um,
Mhm.
where it was like not being labeled as that injured person, but there also wasn't much I could do about it because that's the situation that I was presented with. So
Okay, lots of questions. One, how do you deal with like still being around soccer, being around the team, taking into that like role of being what you said, social media, right? And stuff like that.
mhm.
Like how that would just drive me up a wall.
Okay, so in the beginning of our season, we were doing really well. We were like 7-2-1. We were receiving votes to be in the top 25. We were on this unbeaten streak, and it's so hard because you feel so happy for your team. You feel so happy for your teammates. You have so much joy in that the program that you've put so much effort and time into is doing well, but it was so hard for me not to be a part of that. Like all I wanted to do was play and be physically contributing to the success that we were having on the field. And, like people would say to me, like, oh, we could never do this without you. You bring so much off the field. But I was just like, I mean, I guess, but like, I'm not really doing much.
Mhm.
Um, and so it's been hard. It's definitely taken me a while. It was really hard for me in the beginning of the season. And the girl that just tore ACL kind of like we kind of talk about, how hard it is to sit out and watch. And I'm like, yeah, it's way harder than people think. And people don't realize it until they're in that situation. Um, it's it's difficult. Like you don't want to be selfish, but you also what you can bring to the table. What you can contribute, and so it's just hard to sit back and there's nothing you can do about it. I think that's the hardest part is that there's literally nothing you can do. It's not like you can rehab harder and come back quicker. Like you're out for 9 months.
Yeah. I'm trying to like put myself, like, I'm trying to remember as you're saying these things, how I felt when I was on the sideline pretty much consistently for 4 years. And like, it's a feeling, like you said, like you don't get until you go through, but it's just, even once you go through it and you have to go through it again, like, I don't think it ever gets easier. It just, you always, at least in my case, I honestly just felt like people were saying those things to me out of pity. Like I didn't really have any contribution to the team. Like I just kind of felt like a waste of space.
Well, and it's also hard this time because I'm not rehabbing to play again. So that's been something that's been really difficult for me because I think my first time watching, I was like, you know, I'm happy we're doing well because like I get to be a part of it next year. Like this season it's been difficult because I'll never be a part of it again. So it's just hard for my last season to be a season where I'm not playing. And that's kind of why I started to listen to your podcast, because there are just not many people that I knew that have gone through a career ending injury.
Mhm.
I definitely know so many people that have torn their ACL, but I didn't really have any close friends or people on my team that have been through kind of what I'm going through. And so I kind of remembered a few girls posting your podcast. And so I was like, I need to go back and listen. And so it like really did change my perspective on things because I was struggling a lot. And it was so nice to have someone that, or have people that I could listen to that validated my feelings and knew what I was going through, because I felt pretty lonely. Like I have a ton of family and friends that were willing to support me, but I was like, but you guys don't understand really what it's like. So
No. Well, I was literally gonna say like you were just like crushing this episode. Like you could just like go ahead and host because you're doing so like you're just bringing up things that like resonate so much with me. So I know people listening, it's just gonna really resonate with them. So I'm trying to type as we go because I want to make sure I hit on everything. But before I get into those things, I want to kind of talk one last question about you now in your life. Like one of the hardest things for me and like why like I'm sure people are like why the heck is Bailey like playing D3 soccer, like it's something I never thought I would do, and like my answer is I wanted to love soccer again. I wanted to go out loving soccer. And so I'm curious, like even though the situation you're in, you can't play but you're still around it, like do you feel like you can still go out on your terms and love the sport that you spent your whole life playing?
I think yes. Um, I think this season has been a big growing experience for me. In the beginning, I was struggling a lot, and I think I've kind of, as the season's gone on and as the games have gone on, I it's been easier for me to kind of accept the position that I'm in. And I've tried really, really hard to be like, there's nothing you can do about it. This is the situation you're in. You've grown so much. This has taught you so much. Like, not everything has to be negative. And I didn't want to sit around the season, being upset and moping around. And I wanted to make a positive impact. And so I don't know. I think I'll definitely still have the same love for it. I don't think I would go and like be a coach or anything. Many people have asked me that, and I'm like, I was like, I don't know. I don't think that I would go and do that kind of stuff. But I still think that I love it, and I'll continue to watch and be proud of our program and everything. I just, I don't know. It's definitely been hard, but I think this season has really taught me a lot. I'm glad that I stayed. I
Mhm.
think that if I ended up leaving, it would have been a way different situation. I think I would have left with a bunch of resentment, and they got to play and I didn't. But I think that I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Uh, Maybe not a few months ago, but I think I'm in a way better place now.
Mhm. No, I think doing things on your own terms, like that's something that we don't give enough credit to because, right, you could have left, you could have been done, you could have said, okay, I'm hurt, I can't play, so bye. But like, I think you sticking it through and still having an impact in whatever way you can, I think that says a lot about your character.
Yeah, and I mean, my mom was like, "Do you think you could just play in the last game, like go out on your own terms?" And I was like, I think I'm content with last season being my last season. And that's the other thing, is that I think I would have been way more upset if this happened after my fifth year or before my fifth year. This is kind of going to be like a bonus season. I was not planning to do this the whole time, and it didn't make it that much easier, but I was content leaving on the season that I had. So that was also a big part of it. It would have been a lot harder if this had happened a year ago.
Mhm. You mentioned career ending injuries, and I'm just kind of curious your thought on, you know, you don't, when it's a career ending injury, obviously it's not like it's just career ending, you're done, because you don't get to look at the calendar and say, okay, that's my last game. You don't know when the last game's going to be. So like, how do you think, anyone listening or just like in general, like how do we have a mentality that like this could literally be your last game, you don't even know it, because injuries you don't ask for, they just kind of happen.
So I think that's a lot of jealousy I had towards other people.
Yeah.
I was like, you're lucky. Like, this is your last game. And well, when your last game comes, it's going to be your last game. Like when I had senior night last year, I wasn't anticipating being done because I was coming back.
Right.
So I didn't really like soak in the feeling of like, this is it. Like, this is my last game actually playing. And it's just a little bit different. It's not the same feeling that you get to have playing. It's a completely different situation.
I mean, I've been trying to tell like all of these freshmen who I'm playing with, like they're like what, 6 years younger than me, and I'm like, just have fun with it because like it's gonna end. It's going to end, and it may not be when you think it's going to end. You just like literally never know. There's always a bigger plan in mind. And you're never going to get back those times where you can just have fun and enjoy playing the
Yeah.
sport that we've all loved for so long.
So, okay, so I think I look back at the freshman now and I think of myself as a freshman and sophomore, and I was like, I had no idea what I was about to go through. I had no idea that my career would have entailed two ACLs, season-ending injury, a career-ending injury. And so I do look back and I'm like, I want to tell them, like, you need to soak up every single moment of this because literally in 2 seconds it could be over. And I think going through two ACLs and it just like happened so quickly and there's nothing you can do about it. And I think that was the hardest thing for me is like, no matter how much I rehabbed, no matter how much I did anything to recover, it's not like I could go back 4 months and have this injury happen 4 months earlier. And so people are lucky who go through college and don't deal with any injuries because it's hard to go through that. And yeah, I do. I look at the younger kids and I'm like, you guys have so much time in front of you and it goes by so quick. Like I can't even believe that college is almost over. And I don't know, it's crazy.
It is. Would you go back and not get injured if you could?
Um, yes, definitely. But
Really?
I think it's taught me a lot.
Yeah.
I think it has made me who I am, and it's put me through a lot of experiences that at the time I was like, this is terrible. It's so hard. But I really do, I don't know, I appreciate the experiences that I went through and the opportunities that it gave me and the different perspectives. I think that was a big thing for me is that it gave me the perspective of life doesn't always go the way you want it to go. There's going to be situations and problems in your life, and my college career has not been perfect in the least bit, but I think it's prepared me, well, hopefully has prepared me for my future life. And um, I don't know, I definitely would have loved to go through college with no injuries at all, but I don't know, I guess maybe one, maybe not two.
Maybe two is a bit
Yeah,
much.
that's what I told my friends. I was like, like maybe a different sign that I needed to be done and better, like maybe something a little less traumatic, like not another ACL, maybe like a bad ankle sprain or something. But I don't know.
I will say though, like, the people I have on here, yourself included, like I can have a conversation with you and you can let me talk. I can let you talk. We can resonate with each other. We can understand what the other one's been through. There's people that I know who are really great at soccer, who never have had an injury, and I could not sit and have a conversation with them because I know what it would look like.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And that's once again why I came to listen to your podcast because I was like, I need someone who knows exactly what I'm going through. And even people who have gone through one ACL, I'm like, well, I already did that. I know what that's like. Like, that's not the kind of support that I'm looking for. I'm looking for more of the support of, I can't play this whole season. I will never play again. And I think that never playing again was really, really tough for me because it just wasn't on my own terms. It wasn't like I didn't know it was going to be my last game. So I don't, it's almost, so we have senior night on Thursday and they're all going through the emotions of, this is my last time ever playing on our field. And I almost wish that I could like have those emotions, but I'm like, I've had this whole season to accept what you guys are now having to accept. So I guess that's kind of good and bad. But
So let's kind of talk a little bit more about, I'm kind of selfishly curious. Like, from listening to Stronger Scars, like hearing people's stories, like what has been the most helpful for you? What is something that when someone says or someone we bring up and we talk about, like what are some of those things that resonate with you and really just kind of help you grow?
I think the biggest thing was just having someone that was like validating what I was feeling, like the feelings that I was going through. It wasn't just me. Because I selfishly felt like, why is this happening to me? Um, why has this happened to me twice? Everyone else gets to play. I don't. Kind of just those feelings of like the team's having so much success, but I'm not a part of it. And I heard people say that over and over again. And I was like, because personally, I was like, I feel bad. Like, I feel selfish that I feel this way. Like, I don't want to feel this way, but I can't help it. And so it was nice to feel someone else having the same feelings that I was feeling. And it was just nice to feel that I wasn't alone in the situation. Um, because there's not a ton of people who have, bad career ending injuries or anything like that. So I guess just like it gave me like a little sense of community and like I'm not by myself. I have other people that have gone gone through this before, and it was really helpful, especially in the earlier months.
Yeah, that makes me so happy. I mean, like, I think of it as FOMO. Like,
Mhm.
I am somebody who gets FOMO, like, not being on the field, not going on travel trips because you're hurt. Like,
Mhm.
it's FOMO. And, like, so many injured athletes are going through that.
Yeah, and so when I ended up medically retiring, which was also very hard for me in the beginning, it was kind of like abruptly brought to my attention, like you're just gonna medically retire, and I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Wait, can you talk about that process? I'm genuinely curious.
Yeah, so I got hurt in April, and probably like a week after, someone was like, "Hey, we're gonna medically retire you," and I was just like taken aback.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? Like, and my first response was like, am I gonna still have a jersey? Like, am I still gonna be on the team? Because I've seen people medically retire a lot of the times in football and they kind of just do their own thing. And I think that happens a lot more when you're younger. I was kind of in a unique situation because I only had a semester left. But I was very, very, very adamant about I don't want to be like left behind. I want to be with the team. I want to be part of the program. Like I don't want to not be a part of everything. So I kind of had to decide if that's what I wanted to do. And I wasn't against it. I just didn't really know much about it at all. And so I kind of said, if I medically retire, I would like to still go on all of the trips. Like, I want to be included in the away trips and travel because I didn't want to stay here by myself all season, especially because I'm older. So I was like, I feel like a lot of people like to stay back so they can go to football games and hang out. And I was like, I'm over that part. Like, I still want to come. This is why I came back for my 6th year. And so they said, okay. And really not much has changed, to be completely honest. I think it's kind of what you put into it is what you get. Like you can go do your own thing. You cannot be a part of the team. You are really not required to come to anything at all.
Oh,
You're not allowed to ever playing a game. You can't practice. You're not supposed to live with the team. So there's a lot of things that you're not supposed to do because they don't want to be liable for you and um, all that stuff. But
what do they gain from you? Like,
so they get my scholarship to give to someone else, but I still
get it.
receive that money. Yes. So I just wanted to make sure that nothing was gonna really change. And so that's kind of how we just kept it. I honestly didn't really even tell that many people on my team that I was medically retiring because I didn't really want people to look at me differently. I still wanted to be looked at the same way. And so I ended up signing the papers, I think, before the season. And I thought it was gonna be way worse than it is, but really, I think my coaches have done a really good job of handling it. And so it's been fine.
Yeah. I guess I've had a friend who medically retired, and now that you say that, I think it was a similar situation. Like they said to her, like, you need to medically retire. I guess in my mind, I always thought it was your decision. Like you were like, okay, I'm done.
It is. It's supposed to be a mutual decision. I think there was kind of no point for me not to.
Right.
Um, And for a while, I was like, it has a very negative connotation around it. Like, I don't want to end my career as someone who medically retired and, just not quit, but it almost had the connotation of like, you can't play anymore because you've been hurt.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of hard for me to accept, but I very much made sure that I wasn't going to be labeled in that way. I wanted to still be very much part of the team, which I have been.
Yeah.
I think it's honestly a lot harder for people who medically retire when they're younger. I could see that being really tough because then you have 2 or 3 years and it's like you want to still be a part of the team, but it's kind of like if you don't put enough into it, you could possibly get left behind. And it depends on your coaching staff, I think.
Last question about it. So let's say I get medically retired my sophomore year, but then I just kind of hang out and I feel healthy the next year. Can you like not even go transfer or anything? You're just like done, right?
So I think that you can get it reversed. I don't think it's like a permanent thing. I think if I were to go play my 7th year somewhere else, I could go do that. I think I would just have to like fill out all the waivers and stuff. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that question did come up, and I don't think it's like 100% you cannot play college soccer anymore.
Gotcha. So interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I also forgot to mention, this is a side note that I was just thinking about. So after my last fall year, we ended up going to the spring, playing in the spring, and the coach that I had had for 4 years, Jason, who's now at Notre Dame, told us that he was leaving in like March. So I'm like, I just decided to come back for a 6th year and play for you, and now you're leaving? Like, and how I have to have a new coach and all this kind of stuff. And then, 2 months into him coaching, I get hurt. So that was another aspect of it, was like, I'm trying to, earn my spot with this new coach, improve myself. And then I don't even know if it was 2 months into him being here, maybe a month and a half, then I get injured. So it was just like one thing after another thing after another thing. And it was just like, I could never catch a break.
mhm.
Yeah.
I don't want to like talk forever, but you just brought up something that I also think is important. Proving yourself after coming back from an injury, like tough thing to navigate because like it's just, do you feel like you were the same after?
Not for probably a year and a half after.
Right.
I think if I tried to come back and play that fall after I got hurt in the spring that first time, it would have been a disaster. I really don't think that I was the same until probably a solid year and a half after. Just because it takes a while, like you're so unfit, you are just not comfortable on the ball. There's just a lot of things that go into it, and a lot of it's confidence.
Yep.
People ask me like, do you think you can play in a game? And I'm like, absolutely not. I would be so timid. I would be so nervous to go into tackles. Um, it's a whole mental aspect of things that it's just like, yeah, you can be physically cleared, but you're not mentally ready to go for a while.
No, and I think like the whole like you're coming back to play and then you get subbed on for like the last 5 minutes. And like you said, you don't have confidence. So then it's like that's the example you set because that's how you play. And then it's just a whole spiraling.
Yeah. And you're already dealing with the fact that in the back of your head, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm coming back from this injury. How am I gonna like re-impress my coach because I've been sitting out for a year? And not the coach's fault, but you kind of become irrelevant to them. Like you're not needed.
Yep.
So it's just like you kind of become irrelevant playing wise. And so you kind of have to like reintroduce yourself, like, here I am, like I'm ready to go. And it takes a while. I think I got a little bit lucky with having COVID also because it gave me a few months to really get back into it. But I think if I were to ever, like if this happened and I decided to stay for my 6th year, it's just, I don't know, it's hard.
Mhm.
A lot to rehab and come back. And at this point, everyone was like, you could stay for another year. And I was like, I don't want to. I want to rehab and get back into Division I college soccer shape. Like it's just, after an injury, it's hard. It's a different kind of out of shape.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it is. And that's one of the unspoken things about an injury that you don't really hear about. It's just part of it.
Mhm.
Well, those are all the questions I have. Is there anything that you want to bring up, you have a question about, anything at all?
I don't think so. Where are you playing now?
It's called Brandeis University. It's in Boston.
Cool.
I mean, like, honestly, like being like I guess it's like my 5th year of soccer, but like 6th year of school, I guess. And it's been a challenge. Like, I'm married, I'm older, like I have a life, and going back into dealing with being a part of a team and making friends with people who are just on different pages of life, it's been really freaking hard. And I just keep reminding myself that like I deserve to end soccer like loving it, and hopefully just like setting an example for people that like you can end on your terms if like if you are physically able, like if you're allowed, like do it, because you don't get this back.
Yeah. And I think that was the biggest thing, is that like when I was deciding to take my 6th year, was like, just why not? You'll never ever again in your life get this time back. And people keep asking me, do you think you would ever play after college just like for fun? I'm like, I don't know. It's just, it's not the same. It'll never be the same as playing college. Like, you'll never have those game days and live with your best friends and have the college environment ever again. And so that's kind of was like a hard pill for me to swallow, is that like, even if I do go and play, for fun again, it'll never be the same environment that it was playing in college.
Mm-hmm. And like college soccer was the pinnacle of what we all wanted growing up. Like that was everyone's goal. That was what we worked so hard. Club soccer, going from high school to club, like that is what the goal always was. So I think that's why we just owe it to ourselves to give it everything we have, because then we go on with our lives and it's over.
Mm-hmm. And it's also like crazy looking back. I look at all the young girls and I'm like, I had no idea that this was going to be my story of sitting out for 2 whole years. And I still played in, I think, like 50 games, and I still had a good career, but it's just like, I wish that I had those 2 seasons back to play. But I mean, once again, there's nothing you can do about it, unfortunately. And especially when it's a chronic injury like that, it's like, doesn't matter how hard you rehab or anything, like it is what it is. So
It is what it is.
there's nothing else you can do.
All right. Well, I have loved everyone that I've recently had on, but I gotta say this was a good one. I feel like we get each other, I think. And I really appreciate that. And I hope that, I love how, as someone who's listened to this now, you can come on and share your story. And that's kind of the whole idea around this, is like the power of someone just being honest and open and sharing what they've been through, hopefully helping somebody else going through something similar.
And it's hard when your team is, you're not the focus of your team when you're injured. So it's nice to talk to other people who understand what you're going through, and kind of feel like you can give back and share your story a little bit, because to help someone that's going through the same thing. So yeah, I love your podcast. I've loved listening. It's helped me honestly a ton.
Oh, that literally means the world to me. Like sometimes, it's kind of like being hurt when you feel like a broken record, when you try to tell people how you're feeling. Like sometimes you don't feel like anyone's listening. So thank you for sharing that with me. And thank you for coming on and being an amazing guest.
Thank you so much.